Brought to you direct from Studio 3B at Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods, the American Hardwood Advisor is your source for trends, tips, and insights into how the building industry has evolved. Join me, Steve Stack, along with guest builders and industry leaders as we talk shop and go in depth on what it takes to be the best of the best. Dive into topics like architecture, industry trends, project plans, historical tools, tricks of the trade, and life's lessons from more than 6 decades of experience in the hardwood lumber business. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, Steve Stack, Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods. We find ourselves back at Studio 3B, and we've got a great edition of American Hardwood Advisor for you. Met this gentleman about 8 months ago, and son of a gun if he didn't turn out to be a friend, and I am most appreciative. Kevin, nice to see you again, buddy.
Thank you. Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me here.
Thank you for making the trip up from North Carolina.
This is like contractors' candy land, carpenters' candy land. You know, I got the 5-cent tour. I need to get the other half so I get the full 10-cent tour. But what I've seen so far is like a kid in a candy store. I'm walking through here going, I could use that, I could use that, I could use that. Fabulous.
You brought that pickup truck up. We can load it up and head it back down to North
Carolina.
Have
to rent a trailer too. No, great facility, great staff, the owners.
Thank you.
I mean, and then this place, 3B.
It's been a blessing. And like I told you when we were talking about doing this, I could only promise you one thing, and it was going to be fun. And
most definitely.
To this point, I think we're doing okay, and we've got some more time to spend together, and we're going to take full advantage of it, man. Because I don't consider this work like we've experienced together over the last 6-8 months, whatever it's been, and not complaining about that because there's a lot of different ways you come to fulfillment. And you and I, along with everybody else, cast and crew of Renovation Hunters, we had a chance to experience it these past few months.
Yes, I mean, definitely getting to know you, especially, you meet somebody the first time. You don't know, it's like being in my business as a general contractor. Are they a paper contractor or are they a seasoned veteran? You come in, all dressed up, shake hands, how you doing? Next thing I know, you have a tool belt on and you're in the trenches with us, hammering away.
It's been a blast. It's been a blast. And you mentioned your construction company, Tarkovich Construction. What town do you work that out of?
I'm out of Claremont, North Carolina.
That's out of Claremont also?
Yes, sir.
Okay. How did you ever get in the construction business?
From my childhood, I mean, old enough to hold a screwdriver and take stuff apart. If it was broken, I would attempt, I may not have fixed it, but I could at least get it working or use it for something again. My father had been in construction. He was actually an apprentice for Conrail, Consolidated Rail. They worked on cabooses, refurbishing cabooses back when the rail industry was a mainstay, I mean, a way of life. My grandfather was I don't say handyman, but he was always into something. And that when you're exposed to that as a child, the tools are there. We didn't have much money. So if you wanted to do something, it was a true DIY. You did it yourself. And Dad he was willing to tackle anything. And I was right there by his side.
Yeah.
And, fast forward 30, 40, 50 years, here I am, and on Renovation Hunters. So
yeah.
In conjunction with still having a general contracting business in Claremont, North Carolina. So,
So about your construction company, what kind of projects you all take on down there?
Residential, commercial. That also has been an evolutionary process. I started out, actually what brought me back down to North Carolina. I was born and raised in Pennsylvania. Went to school at UNC Charlotte. One of my roommates was an architect, and I was in school for engineering and also did some architecture. Went back to PA to Millersville University for industrial technology and drafting. So ended up going back to work for my father, who was in electrical contracting. My roommate calls up and goes, "Man, it is going crazy down here." This is late 90s. He said, "You need to come back down." He said, "I can get you a job as a project manager, or I can get you a job with an electrical company." So I came back down, worked for a gentleman as a project manager, and I'm looking at the construction process, and I'm actually telling the GCs and their carpenters how to do things while I'm overseeing or doing the electrical work on it. My boss looks at me and goes, "You're not going to be here long, are you?" I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "I can see it. You're gonna get into this." Like, no, I'll stick it out. Well, 2 months later, I think is when I pulled the first permit for construction of a house.
Yeah.
And the theory was to, get in there and do it the right way. So many times people just jump into something and, haphazardly, "Oh, we'll fix it later. We'll do this." And you get down to a certain point, it's like, if you would have just done this the right way. So that was the motto, that I brought in, like, let's do it the right way first. And it has made a substantial difference. So I've transitioned from, repairs to additions to new home construction, and then also gotten into the commercial end. Currently, I'm actually working with my college roommate. He has a construction company in Asheville, North Carolina, doing high-end residential renovations and projects like that, where the ornate woodwork that you all supply here at Baird Brothers is a key feature, really, in these homes that you have. Whereas, on the commercial end of it, you don't see that much, but the two complement each other, because you need to stay on a fast track for commercial rather than drag the feet that you see sometimes in a residential. So it's a juggling act.
In my career here at Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods, I've had the fortune of number one, representing a very high quality product. I didn't need to be a salesman; it sold itself, and I was just the tool to service that, to get it from A to B. But I received the best in the field college education that I could have ever wished for. I've seen some of the finest builders over the years, both in the Cleveland region, the Pittsburgh region, here in the Mahoning Valley, where we are blessed with some superior craftsmanship. We really, really are. But looking back over the 22, 24 years being on the road, and now traveling to national home and garden shows and seeing different things, I know I have a couple favorite projects that I was exposed to over the years. And I remember a home up here in Richfield, Ohio, was just a killer house. It had all of the qualities that I would look for. It was livable, it was entertainable, it was comfortable. And there's one right around the corner here from our campus here in Canfield that was the volume was taking. The guest apartment, mother-in-law suite over the 6-bay garage, and the underground tunnel connecting to the lower level of the main house, and the theater, and the English pub, and the bowling alley, and and it's like, wow, this is really neat. And just like you're referencing that particular builder, okay, We got one shot at this. Let's do it right. You know. How about you? You have a favorite project?
The completed ones.
Right.
There's been, so many projects. What I enjoy is to start to finish. I mean, meeting with the customer, the potential customer. I think it's a dual interview, for construction. You have to look at it as that, because they may look at you and see, oh, I like Tarkovich Construction. They got good reviews here on whatever. You don't have a review basis for the customer necessarily. It's word of mouth. And you have to find that you can work with this individual, because in construction, especially nowadays with sourcing materials, delays, an average project is 4 months. A small project is 4 months. The average new home can be a year to 2 years, depending on the complexity of it and the size. So you are in a temporary relationship with this individual, and you all need to get along. So starting that process, and then the evolution of the project, and there's so many times that everything works on paper. You can make it work on paper. But until the customer, the designer, they see the thing come together, they see the potential that's there, then you see the evolutionary process of more that you can do. Your underground tunnels or whatever, they're putting in, hey, what if we do this? When you have that customer receive your ideas, actually think about it, that excites me, because I call it, construction is a fluid process,
Very much so.
And when you have a customer who is engaged to that point, that is rewarding. I've done, the first house I did was for my parents. So that was a learning curve. Second one I did was for my sister. So, that worked, and, started going down through, did one for a mother-in-law, and did some spec homes. So from the home process of it, it's every project that I do where I can see the appreciation, not saying, oh, you did a great job, but for the decisions that they made and that they love what they now have, that's the most rewarding. That's my favorite. And that transitions into what we've done here with Renovation Hunters.
You beat me to it. Same, right? It doesn't have to be spoken. We've shared a couple reveals, and their faces say it all.
Yeah. And I would have to say, aside from all of the construction in my business, the faces and the experiences through Renovation Hunters, watching those families, just to see the excitement. I even like the couple that we've looked at, the Ty Nesta build, when we told them that we were going to do their project, I mean, that was more excitement than some people experienced ever in their lives. We got tears flowing. We were on Zoom calls or, FaceTime, and the sisters crying out in South Dakota or wherever. And, to see that impact off of potentially something that we're going to do.
That's it. And we're not going to give anything away, but our buddy, Hal, was downright dirty that day. And that, like you said, the sisters and their reaction that day, it made you want to come to work for them people.
Yes. And that's it. You want to perform, and that's my drive, in doing any project. I look at it as a challenge, personally challenged.
Yeah.
And it's just like, all right, what can I do? What kind of impact can I make? And think through it, and give it your best. Because you don't want to go home at the end of the day or the end of the build and go, I wonder if we would have done this, what the potential could have been, or, it's like playing a sport. if you won, okay, great. If you lost, yeah, it hurt. I could have done better. But when you come in here with your mindset of I'm going to give it my all, and there's no turning back. I mean, when we start on these projects, we are committed to the 7-8 day build. We say 7 days, but it's actually 8. Just the 8th day is our reveal day. Some days it's a loose end day. Just trying to tie some stuff up.
There's definitely been some midnight oil burned.
Definitely lots of midnight oil. But that goes back to also doing what we're able to do and doing it the right way, because we can't go back to Hyannis to fix something. We can't go here. We can't go there. Oh yeah, we let that go. No, we need to take care of everything, and it's been a big help having the team in place, and our influencers, our team of contractors and influencers help out in every situation too. So
pretty good team, and I have to applaud you in the way that you managed to manage them, because I'd be having a conversation with you, and next thing I know, somebody walking up, hey Kev, what are we going to do about this? Hey Kev, can I have you for 5 minutes? Hey Kev, that's all. I thought you had 2 first names. Hey Kev.
I'm next. Whenever you're done with him and her and her, then you come see me.
Right.
So I'm mentally tracking, okay, where do I need to go to next? No, it's you approach it with kid gloves, and they, starting out the first build, 2 or 3 of them knew me from doing our pilot in Missouri. But we didn't engage. That was like a 3-day process.
Yeah.
We didn't get to the level of engagement that we needed for starting the show. And it's been a work in progress. Probably one of the biggest situations that you have to deal with is what someone has the potential to do. They're not familiar with the stringent time frame that we're on is the biggest thing. Because as an influencer doing something in the studio, I do a little bit, take a break.
Right.
When I come in there and go, we got 7 to 8 days, 10, 12, 15-hour days, weather, outdoor environment, heat, rain, snow, depending on what's happening, and you still have to get everything done, and there's no exception, and they look at you like, really? I signed up for this?
Yeah, you know what? And I'm gonna get back to the way you engage people and your value in your building practice. I want to get back to that, but talking about the 7-8 day build and our first project that we sent out to Nebraska. I was here in Canfield, and we had generated an order together. We're going to need this, and this, and we had the trucking company come in to load to head out to Nebraska, and I was watching that, and I thought, wow, that's a pretty good truckload. And then we flew out to Denver, drove 4.5 hours back up into Nebraska to Hyannis, and I remember pulling in the drive that first morning, and there were 4 bunks of lumber, not half bunks, not framing lumber, finished material. And I'm shaking my head thinking, there is no way experienced trim carpenters are going to go through this lumber in a matter of a week. And son of a gun, you guys made the piles disappear.
That's it. We had to, it's in order to get done what we needed to accomplish inside that build. There was no exception. And with, the limitations when you do these projects, there's no place to source materials when you come up short
Right.
for certain things. But when you have a surplus, you don't have anywhere to go with that either. So it's like you got to come down to the penny on, or the inch with the material wise of what we need. And you come out there and it's like, all right, I got 2 more rooms left. And you're looking at the bunk of shiplap or whatever it is and go, whew, is that going to be enough? So you get through with one and go, oh, we're going to have extra. Then you get through with the second one. I'm like, all right, I need a 2-foot piece to finish out. But sure enough, we managed to whittle it all away. And yeah, my thoughts exactly, when we unloaded all that stuff, like, oh my gosh, we need about 10 more people in here.
I remember when our truck backed up to the Pennsylvania project, the Tionesta project, and he opened them back doors, and that's a 26-foot box truck, and it was filled front to back, bottom to top. And I'm thinking, because you and I were very much involved in that material list, and I thought, oh God, what did we do? This little house can't take all this lumber.
Again, it's like, this is not going to fit in here if we just stack it on the floor. But sure enough, that one finished out as well. You did trick me though a little bit on that one, but we'll get into that another time.
We'll get into that a little later. The thing about it, and I believe it was back in April of this year is when we first met, and we didn't know each other from Adam, and we started communicating, we started talking, and then we met again in down in Virginia, and same, and then we got up to Tionesta, and it's like you and I had worked together for a number of years, and I attribute that to a couple things: the way you approach your work, the quality that you expect to achieve, and the timeliness. But I also attribute it to personality, and I think, like a lot of the folks of the cast and the crew, there's a lot of small town people there, mm-hmm. and a lot of small time values, and a lot of small time camaraderie. What do you think?
I agree. I mean, it's they take things personally, which is critical when you're doing, especially, projects like this, where they want to put their stamp on there because their stamp means something to them. And then also with the small town following, or some of them on a larger scale, they want to be able to show people this is what you're capable of doing, under these conditions or with this product or whatever the situation is. But the small town values, that was a critical part in developing, my construction background.
Yeah.
Going back to what we started talking about in the beginning, I grew up in a small town of Denver, Pennsylvania, Lancaster County, southeastern PA, heart of the Amish country, and the businesses largely were off of second, third generation, like Baird Brothers.
Yeah.
But that was the craftsman. So if you were a mason, your grandpa was a mason, your dad was a mason. If you were a carpenter, trim carpenter, whatever the situation is. I was fortunate enough to have friends that all had different businesses. My uncle started an electrical contracting business. My dad worked for him. My dad was more so into he was running it from the business standpoint, which taught me how to run a business, bookkeeping, accounts receivable, payable. I mean, from the time I was 8 years old, I was doing inventory, counting screws and fittings and all that. I don't want to have flashbacks on that one, but
Right.
But in doing that, so you're working with other trades or other families or do things, and you never exchanged money. It was like, hey, I want to put a new service in my house. Okay, I'll come over Friday, Saturday, put a new electrical service in your house. What owe you? Nothing. I'd like to have a brick patio. Okay, I'll come over next weekend. I'll put your brick patio in. That was it. You traded it out, and in doing that, I was also helping them. So when you learn a trade from a second, third generation craftsman, you change that learning curve exponentially. All the mistakes you make in the field as a rookie trying to do it on your own versus, some 75-year-old man who's showing you how to cope in two different types of crown so that they receive themselves properly and you don't have a small joint in there that a small child could fall through.
Right.
It's like, or you're not caulking it, you're staining it. When you learn those skills from these seasoned carpenters, it just helps you so much along the way. And that's part of the fun too with Renovation Hunters, is being able to share some of that, with the crew.
Well, you mentioned something about to the effect that you were surrounded as a young person by talented people, and very similar to myself. In that, I love the old adage, it takes a village, right? It takes a village to tutor younger people and the willingness to share their information, their trade, their techniques, and that makes community. And I know just over the last 8 months what I've been exposed to information-wise about you and your family and your wife and your Catawba creameries, and you are very heavily involved in your communities down in North Carolina, right?
Yes, sir. It's, we've been fortunate enough to have the opportunity to open not just one, but two small ice cream shops, Catawba Creamery in Catawba, North Carolina, and Catawba Creamery in Claremont, North Carolina. A vision that my wife and I had shared from the time we got married. We used to go out, on a weekend or something and go find antiques and go for ice cream. But we talk about, the small town ice cream shop or something that you did as a child. And nothing against, strip malls and big corporate entities, but we wanted to have a place that families can come and reminisce, talk about, I remember when I did this. And we were blessed to find a place that we ended up putting our first ice cream shop in. And doing that, we've had thousands of customers come in. I mean, the small town of Catawba has 660 people. I think last year we served 33,000 people. And it's the rural areas that are so easily overlooked. But that's what holds, I think, these towns together, is the tight bond with the people. So you got 3 generations of kids coming to share ice cream.
Right.
It's simplicity. You had talked about, simplicity on, I think with Chris in earlier about, enjoying that out in the woods. This is something that they can enjoy inside. And, we're also fortunate enough, we have schools around there, and we do spirit nights for them where the families come in, they support, proceeds go back to their cheering, their football team, their basketball team, the PTOs, whatever. It's just a simple way to engage the community and then give back. And it's so simple a concept though. It's ice cream, and they have fun doing it. And there's worse things to do than sit down and eat ice cream.
Yeah, and kudos to you and your wife. I mean, I've started following along on some of the Instagram and Facebook, and you guys have a full schedule. There's not a weekend that you don't have a group or an organization in there doing their fundraisers, and bingo, right there you are, teaching them young people community involvement.
And my wife, Jody, takes care of all of that. I come in, I say hello, I clean tables, I fix things, I do the upfits in the stores, but get in there and mingle, with the families. You develop relationships, and it might be somebody new passing through that we catch, and we just have the experience to sit down and talk with them. They want to know the story. They want to know what brought you here, what's this, what's that. But just have that engagement. But my wife is the one who takes care of all of that. She has a full schedule. And bless her heart, because when I got into Renovation Hunters, now that pulls me out of...
Yes. Takes a busy schedule and really made it
complicates
busy.
It, yeah. And then we have a little small farmette with a ton of animals. And so now she's dealing with our 14-year-old that's still at home, or our last one that's still at home, a barnyard full of animals and 2 ice cream shops, and then listening to me call in, at the end of each night of Renovation Hunters trip going, I'm about to pull my hair out. I don't know if we're going to get done. I can't let that cat out of the bag when I'm on the job, because if, what is that saying? When they see fear, they're
right. No, and that's great. And I think it was one of our phone calls over the course of the last week or so, in making your arrangements to get up here. I mentioned it on the phone. I said, yeah, I see you got the football team in one of the shops, and you got the cheerleaders down at the other shop, and you stopped me and interrupted me, and you said, now wait a minute, those football players, the only thing they're allowed to do is dip ice cream. There's no sundaes, no floats. He said, they're football players.
We actually had, I think, 2 turn-in applications because they had so much fun that day.
That's great. That is great. So, lo and behold, prior to April, and us meeting in April, it was the Missouri project that you guys gave this thing a whirl, and the next thing I know, we're involved with this company called Come On Media, Renovation Hunters, a show going to be featured on the Outdoor Channel, the first renovation type show on the Outdoor Channel, and we said, wow, let's jump on this wagon.
Yeah.
This looks like it could be fun, and little did I know until we landed in Hyannis, Nebraska. How do you keep that cast of characters straight?
Starting from the top.
Yeah, you've got a couple in Hal and Chris.
No, it's keeping them straight and not not getting distracted. Yeah, that's a chore. Starting out, with the pilot episode we did in Missouri. So I'm friends with Hal for years, hunted together, done some stuff with him. I actually got to know him through his partner in Drop Zone, Greg Zippadelli. I was working for an interior designer, and they said, hey, we have a customer, high-end customer, he wants to do an extensive remodel to his personal office. We'd like you to go ahead and spearhead this thing, take it. We need it to be low impact to him, but we need it, to the T. Met Greg, and Zippy and I hit it off. Probably 2 or 3 months into it, he goes, hey, I got a place up in Virginia. He said, you think you could do some work for me up there? I'm like, yeah, I think I can fit it in. So he said, well, I don't have time with my NASCAR schedule. You have to ride with Hal. Okay. So next thing you know, Hal and I are riding to Virginia to a lease property that they had, doing repairs on there. Then we're setting up deer stands. Then we're doing this. Then we're doing that. And like I said, Hal and I hit it off great. So fast forward a few years, he said, hey, I need a hand with a kitchen remodel in Missouri. And I'm thinking, okay, it's out at the lease. All right, what do you got? He goes, well, we need to tear it out. Can you come out? All right. So bump the schedule around, fly out there. Little did I know, he goes, well, I'm going to introduce you to my partner, Chris. Meet Chris out there. Chris and I, we all get along great. Do a little demo in here. Hal's not telling me the full story.
He had a nice trap.
After we come back, he goes, hey, I need you to come back out when we put the kitchen in. Okay, well, it's just some boxes, He goes, no, it's a little more than that. It's like, well, what do you plan to do? He goes, well, we got to film it. For what? He goes, whoa, I didn't tell you, but we're going to do a pilot episode for an outdoor show. Okay, so we've got Crescent that joined in Metabo and came out there, did that, put the pilot together, and then it's a year-long process. When is this coming out? When are you going to see it? And so it sort of loses momentum because you're thinking, not being introduced or exposed to the TV industry before, I had no idea. I thought you just go out there, film the thing, do a little editing, and boom, here it goes. No, it's a year plus. Pilot comes out, it's well received. Hey, we're going to do this. So we fly out to Nebraska, look at the property, and Hal's like, so what do you think? I said, man, I don't know. It's a lot of work. So he goes, well, if you don't do this thing, we're not going to do it. I'm like, okay, no pressure. So here we are, 10 months later, and we finished the first season of Renovation Hunters, and keeping the crew, the morale up, the intensity, has been a challenge. Hal is always right there. He's a big uplift to any spirits. He can engage anybody.
Yep, definitely.
In a conversation or situation or make it, feel good. Chris is the methodical approach where he will analyze the situation and go, what can I do to make it better? He's always the behind the scenes guy. Hey, are you okay? You need anything? Okay, just checking. And, he goes off to the next person. So I couldn't do it all by myself. Definitely it's a group effort. And I must say, between the influencers, they encourage each other because they have their own community.
Yep.
Which is, you call it a clique, you call it I don't know.
They got their own little society.
Their society, yeah. So no, and it's in a good way because they respond better to each other, but trying to find that balance of being the enforcer, being the instructor, and then also being a friend, and without anybody taking advantage of the situation, which is fortunate because the maturity level of the people that we have helps that situation.
Very much so. And listening to you go through and acknowledge your two partners in crime, Chris and Hal, because at the end of the day, everybody's headed back to their rooms and getting cleaned up for dinner, whatever. But you three, I would have paid to have been a fly on the wall for your coaches meeting at the end of the day, getting your mindset towards the next day, talking about what went on for the day. And I got to witness it live. And from Hyannis to Kreitz to Tionesta, and okay, let's partner this one with this one. This one's skill set isn't exactly this, but when working with this one, they work. And then you talk about the influencer, that interconnection and support system that they have within themselves, and now that works. And at the end of the day, you say, wow, they got that done today.
I can honestly say if we would go back to Hyannis, you know, it would be a little bit easier. You know, you watch me on the site, I like to joke. I love having a great time. I love to kid. I love to have fun and joke around. But mentally, I'm constantly checking things off, putting new tasks in order, trying to figure out who can do what, if they can't, how can I do this? But when we first started in Hyannis, I gave a questionnaire out to everybody. I'm like, all right, tell me what you like, what you don't like, what you're good at. You know, and everyone's like, oh, I can do this, I can do that, I can do this, I can do that. We get out there, they're like, ooh, I don't know about this. I'm like, it's okay, we'll get it, okay. And you know, it was a learning curve, almost baptism by fire.
Right.
Because, you know, someone said, oh yeah, I've done this before. Yeah, but not like this. And there's never a day when someone said, you know, I'm not doing this today. Now I gave them options. I'd say, listen, we need to know if you're going to be totally engaged here or not. And because on that tight time frame, we don't have a warm, huggy, feel good day just because, you know, you're tired. And it's like we're on the edge of death sometimes, and you're trying to knock this stuff out and still get the best product you can.
Yep.
And people don't realize, you know, when you see other shows, and not anything disparaging about other shows, but you see the front clip, you see the middle, you see the back, you don't see the 30 people that come through. With Renovation Hunters, it's the same 8 people, with the exception of partners like Baird Brothers coming in there and bringing the crew, and you and Zach, or somebody putting up shiplap or you know, building frames. So we have the partners that are on the show with us that are more than eager to jump in and help, because they realize they want to, and they realize the intensity and what we have before us. But it really, I don't know. At the end of the day, it's a real testament to the group of people that we have.
Very much so, and I'm not saying it's not hard work. There's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears put into it, and that's a testament to you and the way you communicate to those people, and yeah, you can be buddies, but sometimes you got to crack the whip too, and you've managed to do that, and congratulations on the first 3 builds that I've got to witness, and more importantly, or just as importantly, the relationship that we've been able to build, not as business partners, but as personal friends. And you know, having said that, we walk away from 2022 a better person because of what we've been exposed to and the people we've had a chance to meet. So I want to thank you for that, Kevin. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, continue to follow along. Follow this guy, Kevin Tarkovich, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I knew we could do it. Instagram, Facebook, Catawba Creamery, and Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods. Across the board, Instagram, Facebook, BairdBrothers.com, American Hardwood Advisor. Follow along. More great guys like this character coming up. For all you folks listening, thanks for talking shop with Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods. If you've enjoyed this episode and want to stay up to date with the American Hardwood Advisor series, give us a like and subscribe. For more tips, projects, and inspiration, check us out on Facebook, Instagram, or at bairdbrothers.com. Until next time,